Hey, what's going on? Today I'm going to be disassembling this Honeywell fan because it's a little dirty and it's running a little slow, so I'm just going to take it apart. I'm going to walk you guys through the disassembly process and the cleaning process. So let's jump into this and see what we can do here. Just for record, this is a Honeywell model HY-204-WMT that we're going to be taking apart, but I'm sure it's probably pretty similar for any fan that looks like this. So let's see what's going on. So to get started, I've got it unplugged here, and you can already see right here some of the dirt and stuff that I'm going to try and clean off. You can see back there there's a lot of dust on that intake there. So it looks like there's 4 screws here, here, down here, and right here that we can remove, and that will probably separate these 2 pieces and we can get it apart. So I'm going to do that and we'll see where we're at. Alright, so there's the 4 screws I pulled out. You've got to get a screwdriver that's a little bit long because these holes are pretty deep. So if you got one that's too big, it may not reach down in there. But now I've got those screws out, so I'm going to work on separating these 2 panels here. Alright, just gave it a little bit of oomph. You might have to get a screwdriver to kind of pry these 2 apart, but you get those separated and it comes apart like this. And there's some wires right here. They're going to probably go ahead and stay connected. So you may not be able to get this one completely free. That's alright, we've got plenty of room here to clean all this dust off. So I'm just going to grab, let's see if I can get this to balance. I've just got a couple, like a toothbrush and a bigger brush that I'm going to use, as well as a cup of water. And we're just going to work on kind of brushing some of this dust off and maybe getting this fan to work a little bit more efficiently. But that's the general disassembly process to get this fan apart, this model. This next step is pretty easy. I'm just taking this brush and cleaning out all of these surfaces where dust is trapped. It looks like there's 2 screws in here. I may take these apart and see if there's any dust lying behind those as well. So let's take those off and see what's going on. Okay, with those 2 screws removed, this piece right here just lifts out. There's not a whole lot of dust trapped on the other side of it, but there's a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and brush it off and brush off the inside here, and then just go ahead and reinstall this onto here. There we go, got it all dusted off, put back together. This piece right here actually doesn't have any electrical connections on it, so if you wanted to, you could probably run this under some water and get it cleaned up a lot easier. Or if you have compressed air, it'd probably make this whole task pretty easy. But I don't have any compressed air with me right now, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned manual way. Okay, next I've just got this piece kind of laid over like this. We're just going to go ahead and brush off all this dust that's built up in here and see if we can get it as clean as we can. I don't want to get this wet because there's a lot of electrical connections, but a brush should do just fine to get all this built up dirt off. Again, if you had air, you probably could blow it out, but I don't have any, so we're doing it this way. Some of the grime was pretty built on, so I went ahead and added a little bit of water to my toothbrush to get this area clean and this area clean. This area is a little bit harder to reach. You can see there's still some dirt in here. Let's see if we can get that. But as long as you use just a little bit of water on a toothbrush, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. And I got a paper towel to brush off any water that I'm leaving behind. So I think that'll be fine. But this is pretty clean now. I'm going to go ahead and move over here to this and see if we can get the blade clean. Okay, I wanted to make sure that this would swivel and everything's going to turn freely. So what I'm actually going to try to do is take this base part apart. There's these little screws with these plastic washers that go right here on this swivel. I removed those and tried to pull this off, but it's attached. What I did was I turned this, and there's some rubber feet located on each of these holes. I pulled them off. There's some screws in here I'm going to take off to see if I can get access to the bottom of this to take it apart. Sorry about the focus there. So we're going to do that, and we're going to see what we can get apart by taking this off. Okay, and when you remove those, this panel will fall back, and it'll give you access to down here. And what's holding this piece onto this is actually down in here. There's a screw, but I can't reach it because this motor's in the way. I actually don't feel like taking these screws here off, so I'm going to go ahead and just clean this up as best I can and just reassemble it. Okay, I got that base put back on, put the screws with the washers back on, and I cleaned this off best I could with a wet toothbrush. because it's a little difficult to get in all of these blades here. Probably if you had a socket wrench, or if you had a socket that would fit this, you could get this blade off and just rinse it, and that would work pretty well. If you did it carefully also, you could probably put this under water, run it under some water, and try your best to avoid getting it on the motor here. If you were careful, you could do that. I'm not going to do that because this is kind of just a quick little project I'm trying out. And I got this fairly clean. It was a lot dirtier than this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just put this back together and plug it up and see what happens. Reassembly is fairly easy. You just take those two halves that we took apart in the beginning and you make sure that they, match back together. There's a little cavity where that upright cylinder fits inside there, so you have to make sure that that matches up, and you should be good to go. Should match back up. And then I'm just going to reinstall these 4 screws over here in the first 4 that we removed, and it should be done and ready to go. You see right here, there's some pieces that fell out. So I've got 2 screws that aren't going to be able to go back in, that I took off kind of on the front of the unit, that hold the control panel up here. That, I guess, just due to age, these broke when I removed them because the plastic got really brittle. But it's not a big deal because this will be held together by the 2 halves. So as long as I don't break any more fasteners, it should be okay. So I'm going to put these screws back in and we'll plug it back up and see what happens. And there we go, all reassembled. It's a little loose up top, as compared to what it was, just because those 2 screws down there aren't going to go back in. But it's pretty solid, it should be okay. If you've got an older fan like this one that you're working on, trying to get back to working, whatever, just be really careful and make sure you don't over tighten the screws, because that plastic is, as it ages, it gets more brittle, and if you over tighten it, you're likely to strip out and break the fasteners like I've got here where the screw goes in. They'll crumble and fall apart. That's probably what happened here, or maybe as I was trying to remove it. But I'm going to plug this in and we'll see what happens. Alright, we're plugged back in now, and let's turn it on and see what happens here. It's on oscillating, so it's turning. That's working good. It's blowing pretty good air too. It had gotten a little bogged down with all the dust, which is the reason I did this. So if you got a fan that's maybe not blowing full capacity, you don't think anymore, maybe take it apart and do this. You might be able to get some of that dust out and let it move a little more freely, and it should blow a little bit more air for you. So I think we'll call this project done, and this fan's good to go again. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.